Jamaica has just witnessed something historic. The People's National Party, once the mighty giant of Jamaican politics, has now been defeated in 3 consecutive elections: 2016, 2020, and 2025. But this collapse didn't happen overnight. It's the result of decades of corruption, betrayal, and broken promises that Jamaicans simply refused to forget. So in this video, we trace the downfall of the PNP from Portia Simpson-Miller's final days.
I expect to speak with full respect, and you should know better. Don't draw my tongue!
To Peter Phillips' humiliation.
She's not the kind of leader who set about to build the biggest house in Jamaica.
To Mark Golding's failure.
As a believer in democracy, to acknowledge and concede the result and to congratulate our opponents, the Jamaica Labour Party, for their victory tonight.
And expose why the PNP keeps losing, even with all their propaganda. This is the real story behind their downfall.
Welcome Kingston and St. Andrew! Run the beanie man!
AI!
The People's National Party went into the 2016 election thinking they had it locked. After all, they had held the power for most of the previous 25 years. But those 25 years were not remembered fondly. Jamaicans still carried the scars of FinSac, the financial sector meltdown of the 1990s. Under People's National Party management, thousands of Jamaicans lost their homes, land, and businesses. Whole communities were thrown into poverty. Families still talk about how their parents and grandparents never recovered from FinSac. And the worst part, the very bankers, lawyers, and businessmen who profited from FinSac's pain would later reappear under the Proven Investments Group. The same faces still trying to profit today.
People who are seeking to lead the country now, they benefited. When I said that they benefited, they became millionaires and billionaires on the backs of the people.
By 2016, Portia's government was weighed down by scandals, crime, and weak leadership. She was charismatic but indecisive, and her cabinet was riddled with corruption allegations. The people had had enough.
I don't think they know who Portia is. I don't think they know where I'm coming from. And some people trying to cross the line with me. Let me warn you, stop it. Don't try it. I am a stepping razor, don't you trust my size? I am dangerous.
Andrew Holness and the JLP ran a disciplined campaign promising growth, accountability, and a new direction. The result? A nail-biting victory, 32 seats to the PNP's 31. The margin was small, but the message was clear. Jamaicans no longer trusted the PNP to lead. If 2016 was a warning shot, 2020 was a political earthquake. Peter Phillips, a veteran of the old PNP guard, took over as a leader. But instead of revitalizing the party, he doubled down on the same old tragedies, recycling complaints about JLP corruption while ignoring the PNP's own disastrous legacy. The JLP, meanwhile, pointed to progress, a steadily improving economy, reduced unemployment, visible infrastructure development, and international confidence in Jamaica's fiscal management. Phillips, despite decades in politics, failed to connect with ordinary Jamaicans. He came across as stiff, uninspiring, and out of touch. The result was devastating. The JLP crushed the PNP, winning 49 seats out of 63. The PNP was left with just 14 seats, the worst defeat in its history.
To be clear, that if you lose the election today, that you're going to be retiring from politics or stepping down as party leader?
Both. Both.
Okay.
It was more than an election loss. It was a humiliation. Jamaicans were sending a loud message. The PNP was no longer a credible alternative. Phillips resigned shortly after, leaving the party leaderless and broken.
Mark Golding has been elected the new president of the People's National Party PNP. The St. Andrew South Member of Parliament defeated Lisa Hanna in today's presidential election. Mr.
Comrade Lisa Hanna received 1,444 votes, and Comrade Mark Golding received 1,740 votes. So Comrade Mark Golding has been elected as the new president of the People's National Party.
In desperation, the PNP turned to Mark Golding, a wealthy uptown businessman with a British passport. But Golding's leadership only made things worse. The JLP branded him as out of touch, a man who never felt the struggles of ordinary Jamaicans. His dual citizenship became a major issue. How could a man with a British passport, someone who could run to London at any time, claim to be fully loyal to Jamaica? Golding leaned heavily on propaganda, trying to weaponize Integrity Commission reports and media campaigns against the JLP. But Jamaicans saw through it. They remember the PNP's own history of corruption. FinSac, which wiped out thousands of Jamaicans.
Adjusting to his new life has been difficult for Meshach Willis. The entrepreneur has fallen on hard times since losing his house as a result of the financial sector collapse of the 1990s. After working hard for several years to build his dream house, he was thrown out in an instant, losing belongings he and his family had spent years accumulating. The FinSac entrepreneur claims his house, which was valued at between $9 and $11 million, was offloaded by FinSac for just $3.5 million.
The Trafigura scandal, involving millions in shady donations.
The year was 2006. The PNP government, led by then Prime Minister Portia Simpson-Miller, went under embarrassing scrutiny after then opposition leader Bruce Golding announced in Parliament that his party had uncovered suspicious dealings between the government and Dutch oil lifting company Trafigura Behir. Golding theorized that the $31 million Jamaican contribution was a covert attempt to bribe the government as the country was on the heels of a general election.
You have a pathological condition when it comes to telling the truth. And I'm suggesting to you that you have misled, you have conspired, and you have deceived the Parliament, the people of this country, the diaspora, and every Jamaican.
Failed housing schemes where money disappeared and ordinary people were left stranded. Cabinet ministers caught in questionable deals while the country suffered. Instead of building trust, Golding pushed the PNP into even murkier waters. He openly associated with known gang leaders, attempted murderers, and convicted criminals at PNP conferences. He even tried to push for national honors for notorious figures, further alienating decent Jamaicans who wanted peace and progress. And when his message failed at home, Golding turned abroad. He courted the anti-Jamaica diaspora, a handful of overseas Jamaicans, many of whom left the island decades ago and speak only of its failures. They staged protests in the United States, spreading propaganda to destabilize the Jamaican government, echoing the same talking points pushed by the PNP. But it backfired. Jamaicans saw this as desperation, a party begging foreigners to interfere in local politics because it couldn't win support at home. By 2025, the JLP's record was strong. The lowest unemployment in decades, a historic 43% reduction in murders, new infrastructure, and billions in foreign investment. When voters went to the polls, they had a clear choice between progress and the ghosts of FinSAC. The PNP lost again, marking Andrew Holness as the only Prime Minister in history to defeat 3 different PNP leaders back to back: Portia, Phillips, and Golding. So at this point, the question must be asked: should Mark Golding step down? History shows us a clear pattern in Jamaican politics. When leaders fail, they take responsibility. Portia Simpson-Miller resigned after her defeat in 2016. Peter Phillips stepped aside after the humiliating collapse in 2020. Even the legendary P.J. Patterson, one of the most dominant figures in PNP history, bowed out after the party stumbled, understanding that leadership must change for renewal to begin. But Mark Golding, after presiding over one of the most embarrassing defeats in the PNP's history in 2025, refuses to accept accountability. Instead of stepping aside to give his party a fighting chance, he clings to power, and in doing so, he is dragging the People's National Party deeper into irrelevance. And this is where the contrast becomes painful. Unlike Portia, Peter, and PJ, Golding is not only holding on, but blocking the rise of potential successors who could at least attempt to reconnect the PNP with ordinary Jamaicans. Lisa Anna, for instance, though controversial, carries youth appeal and international recognition. Michael Phillips has shown himself as a steady hand with grassroots ties. Even Damian Crawford, despite his flaws, brings energy and a more combative spirit than Golding's detached upper-class persona. Yet all of these possible contenders remain sidelined, trapped under Golding's shadow. If Golding truly cared about the survival of the PNP, he would step down gracefully and allow new leadership to emerge. Instead, his stubbornness proves what many Jamaicans already believe: the People's National Party is no longer a movement of the people, but a closed club serving its own leaders' ambitions. And unless something changes, the PNP may not survive to see another serious shot at government. So the real question is Mark Golding saving the PNP, or is he the one burying it? So the question now is, why does the PNP keep losing? The truth is simple. The People's National Party keeps losing because Jamaicans do not trust them. They betrayed the people with FinSAC. They strangled the economy with debt. They promised prosperity but delivered corruption, poverty, and crime. And instead of changing, they brought forward leaders who were indecisive, uninspiring, and disconnected. Portia Simpson-Miller couldn't manage her cabinet. Peter Phillips couldn't inspire the nation. And Mark Golding couldn't even convince Jamaicans that he belonged to them. At every turn, the PNP has shown more interest in power than in people, and the Jamaicans are tired of it. From 2016 to 2025, the People's National Party has gone from dominance to disaster. Their legacy of corruption and betrayal has caught up with them. Their leaders, Portia, Phillips, and Golding, each failed in their own way. And the people chose instead to trust Andrew Holness, the man who made history by defeating 3 PNP leaders in a row. The question now is not just whether the PNP can win again. The question is whether they can even survive. Because if they continue on this path of weak leadership, corruption, and foreign interference, the PNP may not just be losing elections, they may be writing their own political obituary. So, what do you think? Can the PNP ever recover? Or is this the end of the road for one of Jamaica's oldest parties? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and remember, like, share, and subscribe to Elite Jamaica, where we bring you the stories the mainstream media won't touch. Thank you for watching. Thank you for choosing Jamaica. Stay blessed.
Blood clot. Yo.